Hey, chess friends, what's going on? It's Rafi Chowdhury here, and today we're playing a 20-minute game here on Lichess, and just to catch you up on the moves. So I started with the English C4, knight f6, g3, bishop g2, knight c6 has been played. So yeah, so let's continue moving forward with our logical moves here, which is going to be knight to f3, which develops our knight and attacks the center square. So yeah, these 15, 20 minute games are great for training if you're looking to train and get better at these faster time controls, rapid time controls. These are perfect for a game that's fast enough that you can analyze what's going on and you can give it some thought, but not too slow that it's going to take up your whole day or half of your day or something like that. So I really like these 15, 20 minute time control games here on Lichess. So with that being said, let's look at the position here. So, excuse me. So, pretty typical position here in the English, and White has developed his pieces pretty harmoniously so far. If he does push the pawn to e4, we always have this knight g5 idea. I don't like this move g6 as much now. Well, it's not a bad move. I guess he's putting bishop to g7. I guess he can play d6 and give some support to this pawn. So in that sense, maybe it makes sense, but let's go ahead and let us do our normal natural moves here, just castle. So he does play bishop to g7. We're going to go ahead and develop our other knight to c3 now. Let's see, do we want to do that? Let's play d3 first. Actually, there's some ideas of playing knight a4 to c2 in these kind of positions as well. That's why I want to leave that kind of open. Oops. Okay, so let's develop our other knight to c3. Eating some peaches. Yeah, so I think Black will probably play a move like d6. Perhaps he might even consider playing a move like rook to e8. So yeah, he does play d6. So this is a pretty typical King's Indianish structure against the English. In this particular position, I may actually play the bishop out to g5 and go ahead and plan on exchanging the bishop off for the knight here, so that we have better control of this d5 square. So he takes with the queen, which does get a tempo on the queen now with this move knight to d5. So he goes back with the queen. Let's continue pushing forward on the queen side now with let's play rook to b1 first. Get the rook off this diagonal from the bishop. So he plays a5 to try to slow down this whole b5 push that he's going to make eventually here. But the thing is that there's not a good way to stop this advance from happening. Like, it's coming no matter what. So we can continue with a3. And he plays a move like bishop to e6. We always have our ideas of playing knight to e1 and giving support to this knight here. So let's go ahead and get that move in there. Although I'm a little concerned, he might be able to go for some queen d7, but I think the c7 pawn will be hanging, so yeah, that's not going to be a problem for us. Trying to see if knight d2 or knight e1 would be better in this position. Knight on d2 doesn't really have that many squares to go to. That's the problem. Knight d1, I can go to c3, I can go to e3. And knight c2 also protects, helps to push the b4 pawn. So you can't play bishop h3 yet because c7 would be hanging. So now might be a good time for us to go ahead and get in b4. So the other day I was researching, and I came across something called chess bars, and I was wondering like, what is that? Um, because I mean, like a lot of people have been searching for this on Google and things like that. I was like, what is a chess bar? Like it's like some sort of candy bar or something like that, maybe like a bar. I had no idea, so I looked it up, and turns out chess bars are these little square-shaped cakes, like chess squares, basically. And you can they're edible, like you eat them. A chess bar is like a like a cake of some type, and I was kind of intrigued by that. I was like, wow, like people are coming in with such unique things. I remember back in the day when I first started out right after college and I got into entrepreneurship. My first product that I made was actually chocolate chess pieces. It's called the company was called Chattery's Chocolate Checkmates, and I would literally make um, chess pieces out of candy bars like chocolate, and I got a mold from eBay, and I would put them together and take half of each chocolate piece and kind of like hold them together with hot chocolate. I eventually they would connect together, so you'd have a full 3D chocolate piece, and I would put them in little boxes, and I sold them. I ended up selling like $8,000 worth of these chocolate checkmates in like a matter of 6 months, which was kind of interesting. Very cool project. So we take back with the B pawn to keep our pawn structure intact and protect the A3 pawn also from being captured. A lot of times I like to flip the board like this and see what the position looks like from my opponent's point of view. It helps me come up with ideas. So here, I would definitely prefer this position for white versus black because black's position seems a little bit cramped right now. And white's attack on the queen side is just launching big time. So I don't know what black would want to do. Maybe f5, I think, would be a logical, natural move here. Knight e7, he would play probably something like this, followed by f4. White will play something like b5. So he goes ahead and preemptively pushes the knight away. He's preparing c6, obviously. Can't play c6 yet because there's knight b6 stuff coming soon. I want to thwart this f5 idea, but I don't think I can, honestly. Well, I'm going to play b5. I'm not sure if knight d8 was the best position. Maybe knight e7 might have been a little bit of an improvement on that move. So if he plays c6, obviously knight b6 now. If he takes the knight, then I have bishop takes. So he plays f5 right away. Okay. I wonder if I can play f4 now, but that's really a committal and weakening move in the long term, in the long run. But it does definitely stop any ideas from black of pushing through with f4 and continuing his attack. So we kind of will get the opportunity to slow down his attack. If f4, e takes, knight takes, say, hitting the bishop, bishop f7. After f4, he can also play e4. If takes, I take back with the bishop. Actually, I'm getting a pawn, so I was going to go for that. If he does play f4, he's going to play g5, maybe like, I don't know. I'm not sure how his attack is continuing here, honestly. I wonder if I can play b6 here. If he plays c6 and I play knight c7. And then next move, I'm going to pick up his bishop on e6. And if he takes a take on b6, then I've got the fork idea. Let's go for that. I kind of like that idea, honestly. And if he takes on d5, I'm taking back with check. So he does go for that. And could we get in this move and pick up his bishop now? Although you can make an argument whether picking up this bishop was actually a good idea right now or not in this position. Maybe now he has control over d5 and not sure. And the other idea is to actually keep the knight on c7, honestly. Just keep his position tied up. Might do that actually for a while until I have to trade it. Because this definitely puts a bind in his position, that's for sure. Keeps his pieces from being able to develop smoothly here. Trying to think of good squares to put my pieces on. I don't know what the best squares are for my pieces right now. Like queen a4, maybe queen a7. Maybe rook a1, rook a7. Rook a1, there's always e4. There's d5 ideas now, also in the air. Maybe queen to b3 might be not a bad move to play in this position right now. Just preemptively getting the queen lined up with the king and also threatening that maybe the bishop on e6 one day. After we take the bishop, we have some discovered ideas maybe. So yeah, potential idea. So he reroutes his knight. We could take now on e6 again, but I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe we can improve this other knight to b4. But really, I don't want to put my pieces towards his. I want to put them closer to this side of the board, actually. Well, let's get our pieces to better squares at least. This knight on e1 is not doing much, so I'm thinking about maybe putting it on b4. Although I'm still not exactly sure what it would be doing on b4. It does eye the c6 square and kind of eye the d5 square as well, and keeps black from wanting to advance on d5. But besides that, I don't know exactly what that move is doing much. But I can't think of any better squares to put my pieces on either, really. I think he'll play f4 here. Seems to be the most logical looking move here. Now this does again open up these light squares for my pieces to get into. So I may provoke this move. Is this a good time to maybe chop off the bishop on e6? I wonder. Because he wants to play bishop to h3 now. And he does have a lot of light square weaknesses, so now might be not a bad time to go ahead and chop here, actually. Let's do that. So maybe we can put our other knight on a5 somehow. Not sure where my pieces belong right now. Not exactly sure. This knight here on e4 would be super strong. How do we get it there, though? c3 or d2? How do we get a c3 or d2? Maybe knight b4, knight a2, knight c3, knight d4, perhaps, is an idea. He's trying to bring his pieces into our position, so we do have to be very careful here, because his attack is really starting to rage now. See, all these pieces are coming in, and knight on e4 would be wonderful right now. So let's get that in there as soon as possible. Knight c3, knight e4. I think I'll play knight e4 now. He does have knight c3 check, but I have king h1 in there. And I think f2 is sufficiently protected. Wow, he plays f3. Interesting idea. I think I could take here first. If he takes my bishop, I take his queen. So if he does that, I may play this. And then pull this bishop back. Now this pawn on f3 is going to be really annoying. So that's something we have to look out for very soon here. And now my bishop is completely entombed now, so that's not good. If he plays g4, for example, I mean, I'm really trapped in there. I'm not sure exactly how we can untangle these pieces right now. Seems very, very difficult to play this position now. All of a sudden, the tables have turned around. Gone from a very nice position to black just dominating us right now. So yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure what's going to happen now. I think g4 is definitely a playable move. He might try to crash on the h2 square also by lining up his king, maybe king f7, rook h8, queen h8, queen h6, and then crash on h3. That's definitely an idea. And that's an idea that I don't know if I can stop, honestly, if he does plan that. Thinking about c5, trying to get exchange going here, but I think he can just play d5. So he does play g4 and really closes up this side over here. We're basically playing down a bishop right now. And I'm not sure how we can make progress here. Man, this is tough, tough position to play. What can I do here? Where do my pieces need to be? My queen needs to be on e4, I think. Let's play this first. Play queen e1, queen e4. Maybe at some point I can sacrifice the bishop on f3 as a potential idea. If he ever moves the rook from f8. Yeah, so he's got a simple plan, rook h5, and then he's going to play queen h6, and he's going to take on h2. Simple idea. I have no defense against that at all. Think about playing h4 actually. But the bishop f6, I have queen d2. If he takes, I take. This queen to h6. He can't play queen h6 in that position. He can play rook to h5. I want to go for this line. At least it gives me some breathing room here. Otherwise, I'm just getting suffocated here. So bishop f6 now, I can play queen d2. If he takes, then I can play takes. And then he plays rook h5. Play bishop takes f3. If he takes on passant, then I can probably take on f3. Now might be a good time to sacrifice on f3 actually. I'm going to go ahead and do that while I have the chance. At least I can breathe now. Down a pawn, but it's better than getting cramped and choked. So, you know, got some fighting chances now. Got a couple of pawns for the piece. I don't think he should have allowed this, by the way. There was no need for him to allow this to happen. So now I'm thinking about how I can keep some pressure on him. Maybe a move like that, pinning the rook. And he wants to trade queens. Do I want to trade queens with him? Nah, because I'm just on a pawn. I don't have any compensation for that. So I probably don't want to trade any queens here. Can I go ahead and decline the queen trade? And keep pieces on the board as much as possible to create and try to create some sort of complications. Perhaps maybe I'm thinking about something like a rook. It really can't attack b7 even. He's just got it protected so well. With the rook, he can play rook f8, rook f7, b7 is protected, and all of his rooks are lining up against my king. So I have to. Yeah, he's got other rook brought in now also. Let's get one of our rooks into e4. I do want to play d4 next move if I can. He wants to bring all his pieces in. I see. Yeah, he wants to crash through here, check, or something like that, maybe. If I push d4 now, he takes. Do I have anything in that position? I don't think I do, honestly. Let's improve our queen a little bit. And play king to g2 maybe. So he wants to aggressively push this, okay. Now maybe can I attack b7? No, b7 is well defended, that's the problem. It's the best square for my queen, probably here. Sort of lateral defense here now. Trying to keep the queen to protect. Okay, so now I may have to play this. Oh, he's taking on t3. Dang, I missed that. Well, not sure what to do now. I know I have to create some complications, but besides that, I don't know what else I could be doing. Let's get aggressive and try to see if we can maybe get this h-pawn hairy to start rolling for us and doing some work here. I don't know what it's gonna do, but it's better than just sitting here. Because this position is just, you just have to create complications or else it's just gonna fall apart. So now we get the queen in here as well to start doing some attacks. Maybe rook c7 with rook c1, rook c7 is now an idea. He takes. Oh man, I can't take, but I can't take with the king though, couldn't I? Then he has e4 check. Oh, rook f6 check also. Gosh. Couldn't I take that and win the rook? On f3? Closing some of these windows that's because my video is getting slow. Oh, I could have traded the rooks off. Rook h1, I missed it. But I have rook c1, rook c7 again. I'm trying to shoot for some sort of mating ideas here, but I don't know what I can do. Oh, he's opening up an attack. Jeez. Maybe there's a checkmate idea. Oh, that loses the rook. Feel a lot more comfortable now in this position. That drops another pawn. Now it's just a matter of technique, as they say. We're going to first defend everything. Now we're going to start making some progress here. Now we're going to sacrifice. Well, that was close. um, so yeah, I think that endgame technique was really well done by us. Once we converted to got the free rook, I think we played quite well. Although there was definitely some inaccuracies, but this was definitely a very, very lucky win for us. See, we got some rating points out of it, so that's good. We got to, what is the rating? New rating, 2095. That's pretty solid. So let's go over this position and analyze it and see what we could have potentially done better. So let's request a computer analysis here. See what the computer has to say about our position in our game. So yeah, c4 here, controlling the center. English opening, knight f6, g3. It's all pretty standard stuff here. Trying to get the opening book to pull up. There we go. So see here, bishop to g2, controlling the long diagonal now, and he plays the move knight to c6. Played knight to f3, developing our pieces, g6, going into the King's Indian sort of structure of against the English. So castle, he plays bishop g7. I played knight to, I believe, or d3 is what I played. He castles, and then I played knight c3, developing all my pieces harmoniously. This game between Vladimir Kramnik and Ding Liren from this position. Interesting. So he plays d6, and I believe I played bishop g5 here. I want to pull off the computer analysis. There we go. Okay, I don't know what this is right here. What's that? Trying to get rid of this stuff to go away. Everything looks okay here. What? Why is it showing this stuff right here? I have no idea what did I do to bring those things, but maybe take this out. I don't know. Turn this thing off. Still doing that. Any case, let's go back to the beginning of the game. So yeah, so knight c6, g3, e5, bishop g2. He plays knight c6, knight f3, g6. I think castles, bishop g7, d3. He castles. I played knight to c3. Then he plays d6, and then I played bishop to g5, which is an inaccuracy. I don't understand why, because that's a pretty typical idea here, is to chop the bishop and the knight for each other in this kind of structures, but computer doesn't like it. It likes to move e4 a little bit more, taking over more central space. But I personally like my move bishop g5. I think it just gets rid of the knight and gives me a solid position here. And the database definitely has these kind of games, bishop g5, 154 games, for example. And it doesn't have much games at all with the move e4, honestly. Let's see. e4 is 20 games, and rook b1 is the most logical move, and commonly played move here, actually. I'm trying to get the computer to show multiple lines here, but it's not doing it. It's only giving me one line for some reason. I'm going to refresh this page 1 second. There we go. Now it's showing the multiple lines and everything. Okay. So after bishop to g5, plays h6, and then I went ahead and took on f6. He took back with his queen. And then I believe I played knight to d5 here. Rook b1 is still the most popular move here. Interesting. Still lots of grandmaster games with this and from this position. So here I played queen to d8, and I believe in this position is where I finally played rook to b1. So black plays a5 now, and I think I played a3. Yep. And then black played bishop to e6 here, which is a novelty. And now there's not any more games in the database from this position. I think the games from this position usually went knight d4 and knight e7 from here. But he plays bishop to e6, which is not a bad move. It's just not been played. So here, I want to say I played knight e1. Knight d2 is suggested. I see that. Knight e1 is not being suggested for some reason, so wonder why. And here in this position, black plays the move queen to d7. Again, I don't know why white's showing, computer is showing an evaluation of minus 0.9, because I think the position is definitely okay for white. I mean, I can't imagine why white would be worse here. I mean, his pieces are harmoniously developing themselves and things are good, but maybe it values the kingside attack a little bit from the black point of view, because it's very direct and straightforward attack from the black side, and white's attack on the queen side is not as straightforward. So after queen d7, I think I played knight b8 was best, it says. Interesting idea. Knight b8. Followed by knight a6 and knight c5, I think was the idea. So I've continued with my attack with b4. He took. I took back. Played knight to d8. And I did play b5 here, which is the correct move to play. Queen d2 is an option as well. It probably won't like my b6 knight c7 idea, I can tell you this. I just don't think that was the right way to go here. So then he computer plays sorry, my opponent plays f5, and starting his kingside attack. And yeah, see, he didn't like b6 at all. It probably, I was gonna think he was gonna suggest something that stops and slows down the attack on the king side for black. So knight f3, I thought about knight f3. I was thinking, like, how can I improve my knight a little bit more? But I was just very tempted with the b6 idea, because I was thinking, well, I can get my knight into c6 and c7, and I was just very interested in taking the bishop on e6. But I later realized, like, taking the bishop on e6 really won't help me much. My knight is very active and powerful on d5, and his bishop isn't doing a whole lot on e6. So here, after c6, I played the correct move, which is knight c7. He played rook b8. I think I played queen. Yeah, I played queen b3 here, but I think I'm looking at some of the, I did consider queen c2 during the game, actually. Definitely considered that move. I definitely considered knight takes e6. I considered, didn't consider e3 as much. But I was just thinking about knight c2 and queen c2, queen b3 is the main moves that came to my mind. And I went with queen b3 line. And here, black continued with knight to f7. Inaccuracy, f4 was best. Okay. I think computer doesn't like this move. The evaluation is coming out as negative for on this move for black is because the f4 idea is a very direct attacking plan, and so by putting the knight on f7, black is just basically putting the knight in front of the rook, which was helping with the attack. So it doesn't make sense. But I personally like the idea of knight f7 because it plans to bring the knight into g5, and that's a really good square, and those pieces are slowly starting to inch towards the white king. So knight c2 from me. Computer find c knight c2 at all? Does not. So he continues with f4, and I was curious about that evaluation after f4. Yeah, it does find f4 as a definitely as an attacking move here. Here's where I started really going wrong. The next few moves that I played are just really bad. I believe I took on e6 now because he was threatening to play this bishop h3 idea. He took back, and I continued now with I think knight b4 is what I played in the game. With c5 is being suggested here, but I thought after c5 he could just play d5, right? So I wasn't sure exactly what c5 would achieve for me. h4 is a suggestion. I don't know again why would I push a pawn towards the king side where he's attacking and already creating some weaknesses. I guess it does keep knight g5 out of the picture, but that's kind of a risky move to play for a human. E3, I can kind of understand why e3 because it's putting a pressure to the f4 pawn, but I believe he can play g5 after e3, and then f3 becomes really weak. Well, I played knight b4, and my position just fell apart from this point. He played excellent, so he does play knight to. Oh, he plays g5 first, to which I responded with a move the computer again questions because probably it doesn't understand my intention of knight c3, knight e4, and doesn't think that knight on e4 really does much. Which turns out that in the game, as you saw, it didn't really help us much. So played knight c8. He continued with rook f2. What did he play here? He played g4. Yeah, g4. Knight c3. Knight to g5. Knight to e4. f3. E takes f3. E takes f3. G takes f3. Interesting. And bishop h1 is suggested. But I captured first. He captured. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken an f3, honestly. Why did I take that pawn? I could have just left it there and played bishop h1. Because I think after taking this, I'm completely busted. So that's definitely a mistake. Huge mistake I played by taking on f3. Look at the evaluation go from negative 1.5 to 5.0. He took, and it's such a strong attack that he's just threatening, just saying to sacrifice the bishop altogether. I play bishop h1. Man, there's queen h3. Yeah, he had an immediate checkmate idea. Queen h3 followed by king f7, rook h8, and I'm just completely lost. But he misses his opportunity to play that, and he plays g4 instead. Played queen to d1. Rook to f5 was played here. I think his idea again is just to line up on the h file. I don't know why he didn't do that for so many moves. So I lashed out here and I realized what was coming, so I had to play this h4 idea. And here I thought he would play just something like bishop to f6 and just take on h4. But he didn't go for that. He instead played this. And now is where I got my lucky break to try to play bishop takes f3, which the computer isn't even suggesting. That's crazy. I feel like the move I played is the one gives you the most practical chances because otherwise I'm just getting completely dominated in this position. But I took here, and he took, and I took back with the queen. He attacks. I move out of the attack. goes to rook f6, offers me a queen trade. I did not take the queen and go into this endgame down a point. And so I chose to keep the tension, which probably doesn't favor him because his attack is just so strong. But again, it's just a game that where the practical chances, matter more than just playing a position that is just clearly, tough, very tough. I think that playing this position down, two rooks and a bishop versus the two rooks and a couple of extra pawns, I think it's just really hard to play that. There's just not any chances for black to go wrong, basically. Which is what I was trying to do, is keeping pieces on the board. At least there's this chance that black might make a mistake. This is one of those positions where the computer evaluation may be accurate in theory, obviously, because it plays exact moves and assumes that both sides will play exact chess. But if you look at it from a practical standpoint and you look at the move and you're like, well, why would I trade the pieces off and go into a completely hopelessly lost endgame where it's just a matter of, technique before my opponent figures out how to win, versus keeping the pieces on the board where I'm lost, yes, but if black makes a slight error, you can always jump right back into the game. So it's practically a better move than trading queens. So rook to g6 was played. He played queen h5. He played other rook to f8. And now here's where I was planning to get my other rook into the e4 square, or playing king g2 was definitely in my mind as well. But I played rook to e1, continue with rook h6. Just a bunch of shuffling back and forth now. Played queen to g5, trying to keep my queen in that square, just to keep pressure on him somehow. But really doesn't do much. Still lost. I went back to h5 again, played the other rook to f5, and this is where I flew down to e2. Plays queen f7, trying to pile up all of his pieces into my position. And I wanted to centralize the queen and have it guarding h4 as well, so here I played queen e4, but rook a1 is better according to the computer. I think I understand rook a1. The idea is to bring the rook to a7 and then bring the other rook to a1 and start harassing the black king from the back rank. But I was a little scared of this e4 move at any point. But I think if he plays e4, I play check first and move and then take the pawn on e4, really. That's all that is. So concrete calculation would have showed that rook a1 is definitely better. But instead I played queen to e4. He plays d5. I took, he took. And the queen should have gone back to e2 according to the computer. And again, I think the reason for that is just keeping the queen close to the king side, just to give it defense to where when the black attack does crash through. But I chose to play a4 in the game. I didn't have that much time to give it too much thought. With 3 minutes on the clock, so I played queen a4 because I knew that laterally I'm still defending this h4. So he goes with rook to f3, and here I played king to g2, giving some support for the king, but I realized that he can just take my pawn on d3, which he didn't take it, actually, surprisingly. I thought he should have just gone for the pawn, but because he does get a pass pawn after taking on d3. Plays king to h7, getting out of those back rank checking ideas. And during the game, I was telling you guys I played h5 just to get some practical, ideas going. And computers is suggesting that as third choice. Now I'm starting to say that's the best move. Interesting. We did play h5. Oh, he could have taken on b6 even after h5. I didn't even see that. So he plays rook to h6, keeping the rook tied down on this side of the board, and then I played queen to g4. And here is where he made a fatal mistake, and he didn't realize that my king and my queen are attacking his rook. And he went for this. And I almost took the rook with the king. I almost went for that, and I realized, oh wow, I would lose my queen after that. Because he plays rook f6, and after king g2 or king wherever, he takes my queen. I thought about taking with the queen, but then I realized he has checkmate on h2. So the only move, and the only move that makes any sense here, and outright wins the position, is actually queen takes h5, which leaves the rook on f3 undefended. So I thought maybe at the very least he should have taken the pawn on f2 or something like that, but he just took back on h5. Okay. I took here, and it's just completely a winning position for white, and so I have to just basically convert it now. So he plays this, and now here I missed my opportunity to trade off the rooks. I totally didn't even play way too quickly and didn't see that. Played here. Plays check. Viking to g2. And he plays, excuse me, he played bishop to f8. So here I wanted to get my rook into c7, which he promptly stops that with bishop to c7. So I brought my rook all the way up here. Played king to g6. I brought my rook to give a check. King went to f5, and then I played my other rook to h1, looking to get the other rook into the action somehow. But he played what seemed like a nice move here with bishop c5, but then I believe I played this move, threatening the b7 pawn, so he's pretty much forced to take with the rook. Then I played this check. This king went to f6, and then I believe I played my rook on the g file to h7. That's a blunder. Why? Oh man, because I can't really do anything about rook to b2 coming into f2. That's interesting. Instead of playing this rook here, after rook b2, check, king here, and then I have this check, king f4, and then there's checkmate ideas here on rook f7, so I missed that. Play this instead. He didn't play rook to a b2. He played bishop here instead for some reason. And this allows me to give a check, pick up the rook, which simplifies and makes the game so easy for me now. And then I win another pawn. After this, I want a third pawn. Here it's just completely lost. All I have to do now is just make sure that I bring the king in, sacrifice the rook for the bishop, and go for the winning. I could have actually sacrificed rook for the bishop right away, but I chose to go the safer route of bringing the king closer first. Defended everything. Moved my pawns out of the way of danger. I think he was oblivious to my idea of sacrificing the rook for the bishop. It doesn't do anything to stop it at all. Computer certainly doesn't even suggest taking the bishop. Honestly, it just says just to push through with f4. But practically, of course, rook takes e5 is the best move, especially given I have a minute on the clock. Just a simple win from here. And here is where he resigned. So overall, this was a fun game to play. I think we definitely made some blunders here. So we've made let's see, I made 3 blunders. So let's learn from our mistakes. So e takes f3 was played. What was the best move? We should have played bishop to h1 by far, protecting, keeping the bishop's diagonal open. And if he takes here, you can always play a move like rook to e1 and then take the pawn back with queen c2 if needed. Bishop takes f3 was played. Find a better move for white. I don't like this one because I think practically speaking, bishop takes f3 is the best move for white. Because otherwise, I mean, you're just getting like squeezed to death pretty much. Like what else could you play really in this position? But what computer wants me to play, probably, I don't know. Maybe this. I'm not sure. It's taking a long time to evaluate my move. Is it working? Whenever I have the video running, these kind of engines and stuff slow down tremendously, so that's probably what it is. Anyway, I don't have time for it to wait to evaluate my move. Just gonna skip that one. Let's do the last one. Yeah, we know this is the right move. Bishop to h1. The computer is really starting to freeze now because of the video. I just can't handle too much like this. Yeah, bishop to h1 here. Next one, we're going to skip it. And then I played this move here, but I should have played instead this one right here. Makes sense. And after this, if black does play rook to b2, I believe the continuation must have been something like check. There's mate in 3 actually here. Probably check. King f4, and I think this is checkmate. Yep. All right, guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video and this game. It was, instructive for me, and also I think hopefully it was instructive for you guys as well. We definitely did not play the most accurate chess here. We definitely made some, big mistakes. But that is, common in shorter time controls. It's just like not possible to calculate everything in every position. So hopefully you guys learned something instructive from this game, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video. Thank you, and take care. And my piece of advice is eat more chess bars.